Hello, dear student in the third preparatory stage. In the last session, we discussed the cell division and how does the somatic and reproductive cells divide. In this session, we will discuss together the sexual and the asexual reproduction. Reproduction in the living organisms. What's meant by reproduction process? Reproduction process is a biological process. It means that this process can be done only by the living organism, where the living organism produces new individuals of the same kind and thus ensuring its continuity. This process aims to ensure the species continuity in the life and produces new individuals of the same kind. What are the types of reproduction? There are two types of reproduction. The first is the sexual reproduction and the asexual reproduction. Firstly, we will talk about the asexual reproduction. What's meant by asexual reproduction? It means that the living organisms produces new individuals have genetic traits identical to the genetic traits of the parents. It occurs in unicellular living organisms as yeast or amoeba, and some multicellular animals and plants. It takes place by mitosis cell division, so no need for special systems or structure. These lower living organisms have no spatial reproductive systems, so no change in the genetic structure, as the produced cell is full copy with complete details as in the parent cell. The daughter cells is identical or full copy or similar to the parent cell. Each has 2N. The asexual reproduction occurs by only one living organism, so it needs only one cell. The other type of reproduction is the asexual reproduction. What's meant by the sexual reproduction? It means that the living organisms produces new individuals have genetic traits differ from the parents. It occurs in multicellular animals and plants. It means the higher living organisms. What is the difference between the higher living organisms and the lower living organisms? The multicellular animals and plants is called higher living organisms because they have a spatial reproductive system and spatial reproductive organs for reproduction. It takes place by meiosis division, so it needs spatial systems or structures. Occur change in the genetic structure. The new offspring combines the genetic traits from two sources. One of them is the male and the other is the female. The sexual reproduction occurs by two living organisms. One of them is male and the other is female. Types of asexual reproduction. What are the types of asexual reproduction? Firstly, the binary fission. The binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction where the nucleus divides mitotically, then the cell splits into two identical cells. It occurs in unicellular organisms as amoeba, paramecium, euglena, and some algae and bacteria. This question repeated in some governorate exam as complete the following sentences. Complete, they are divided by binary fission. We will answer any organism of those organisms, amoeba or paramecium or euglena. How the binary fission reproduction takes place. Firstly, the nucleus divides by mitosis and the cell splits into two cells. Each cell grows and becomes new individual. This new individual is full copy, similar to the mother cell or the parent cell. Another type of asexual reproduction, budding. What's meant by budding? Budding is a type of asexual reproduction, produces new individuals by formation of buds in the parent cell. It occurs in unicellular yeast fungus. Unicellular yeast fungus. This is the yeast cell and the bud arises from it. Then the nucleus begins to divide mitotically and splits into two nuclei. One of them sits in the parent cell and the other migrates to the bud. Then the bud will separate to form another new individual identical to the parent cell, or may form colony and settle on the body of the cell. Also, budding takes place in some multicellular organisms as hydra or sponges. They are marine organisms, live in water. How the budding reproduction takes place. Firstly, lateral bulb emerges in the cell. Then the cell nucleus divides into two nuclei. One of them remains in the parent cell and the other migrates to the bud. The bud grows gradually and remains connected to the parent cell until it's fully grown. Then it separates from it, or the bud remains connected to the parental cell, forming colony. This video will describe how does the yeast fungus reproduce by budding. Firstly, the cell will emerge the bud, then the nucleus starts to divide mitotically into two nuclei. One of them sits in the parent cell and the other migrate to the bud. Then the bud will full grow and form colony or separates from the parent cell as shown in this video. Each yeast cell will divide mitotically by budding as shown. This is the emerge of the bud in the parental cell, and the nucleus try to split, so the nucleus settle in the parent cell and other part go to the bud, and the bud full grown to produce a new identical cell to the parent cell, forming a colony or the bud will separate to form a new cell. This video describe how does the yeast fungus reproduce by budding. We see all the cells of the yeast fungus which reproduce by budding. This is the bud, and the organs inside the cell splits to form another parts. Then the cell divided by budding. Regeneration, it means the ability of animals to compensate their missing parts. What's meant by regeneration? Regeneration means the ability of animals to compensate their missing parts. As the living organism can reproduce by one of its parts, it occurs in some animals as the starfish. Starfish arms could be revived or regenerated and give out a complete animal if they contain a part of the central disc of the animal. If the arm that is cut contain a part of the central disc, then it will continue regenerated cells by mitotic division to produce full copy cells. Another type of reproduction or asexual reproduction is spore propagation. What's meant by spore propagation? Spore propagation means it is a type of asexual reproduction, occurs in some fungi and algae by producing of spores. It occurs in some fungi as bread mold fungus and mushroom. This is the bread mold fungus, which have special organs called sporongia. Each sporongium has a large number of spores that be released on rupturing of its wall. This is the sporongium, which rupture at certain time and releasing of the spores to fall on a suitable medium, then it full grow to form another identical cell by spore propagation or sporogeny. When the spores are scattered on a suitable environment, they grow to give new organism or new fungi. So on bread, if a spore is placed on a wet bread, it will give new fungus by mitotic division. In this video, we will see how the spore propagation takes place by the bread mold fungus. This is the bread mold fungus, and this is the sporongium containing large numbers of spores. The spores will released after the rupture of the sporongium, then scattered in the suitable medium, which may be wet bread, to produce another identical organism or another identical fungi. This video, we will see together how does the bread mold fungus grow on the wet bread. This is the wet bread, and the bread mold fungus begin to appear. They are large numbers. This is the formation of the sporongium and releasing of the spores, which aid in or help in the spoilage of the most of the food. Another type of asexual reproduction is the vegetative reproduction. What's meant by vegetative reproduction? It is a type of asexual reproduction takes place in plants without need of seeds. Again, what is meant by asexual vegetative reproduction? It is a type of asexual reproduction takes place in plants without need of seeds. It takes place and occurs in plants by mitotic division. It occurs without the need of seeds, but by the plant's vegetative organs. What are the vegetative organs of the plant? The vegetative organs of the plant are stem, root, leaves, and bud. Again, the vegetative organ of the plant, stem, root, leaves, and bud. In order to reproduce new plants identical to the parent plant. It also occurs by plant cell in tissue culturing. Again, we say that the vegetative asexual reproduction depends on the vegetative organs of the plant, not on the seeds. Try to solve some give reason questions as the asexual reproduction in plants doesn't need gametes. This is because it occurs in vegetative organs like stem, root, leaves, and bud of the plant, which divide mitotically to give new cells identical to the plant cell. Each of them contain double set of chromosomes 2n. Another question, starfish reproduce asexually by regeneration. This is because each lost arm can be regenerated and give a complete starfish if it contains a part of the central disc. Then we will talk about the other type of reproduction, which is the sexual reproduction. The sexual reproduction occurs in higher living organisms. It means that these organisms have special organs and special systems for reproduction. The sexual reproduction occurs between two parental individuals. One of them is the male and the other parent is the female. The sexual reproduction depends on two main processes. The sexual reproduction depends on two main processes, which is gametes formation, secondly, fertilization. The sexual reproduction depends on, firstly, gametes formation, secondly, fertilization processes. What's meant by gametes formation? Gametes are formed in the reproductive cells by the meiotic division. Each gamete contains half number of chromosomes of the organism's reproductive cells. The second process is fertilization. Fertilization means the combination between male gamete, which contain half number of chromosome N, and the female gamete that contain half number of chromosome N to form a zygote which contain double set of chromosomes 2n. The zygote contains the normal number of chromosomes of the organisms. The zygote contains genetic material from both parents, and when it grows, it gives a new offspring with traits of its parents, 2n. Note that the sexual reproduction is a source of genetic variation. Again, the sexual reproduction is a source of genetic variation. This is because the offspring resulted from the sexual reproduction gain its genetic traits from two sources. One is the male and the other is female. So the new offspring combines the genetic traits from both parents and it comes to the children. Some questions as give reason for: the number of chromosomes is constant in the same species which reproduce sexually. The question again: the number of chromosomes is constant in the same species which reproduce sexually. That's because in fertilization, it is the combination between the male gamete, which contain one set of chromosome, and the female gamete, which contain one set of chromosome, to produce zygote contain double set of chromosome, which contain complete number of chromosome 2n. Another question: sexual reproduction is a source of genetic variation. Sexual reproduction is a source of genetic variation. That's because the produced individual gains or combines new genetic traits from both parents or different sources. What happens when? What happens when putting yeast fungus in a warm, sugary solution? When the yeast fungus is put in a warm, sugary solution, a bud emerges from the parental cell, which form a new individual, full copy of the original cell mitotically. Another question: starfish loses one of its arms. What happens when starfish loses one of its arms? The animal will compensate the lost arm mitotically. Also, the lost arm will form a new individual if it contains a part of the central disc mitotically by regeneration. In this question, we will talk about the real animal and also the lost arm. In this video, we will see how bacteria divide by binary fission. These bacteria will divide mitotically by binary fission. As the nucleus of the cell divided, then the two cells begin to grow to form complete individuals having the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. See you later and goodbye.